native.
Philadelphia native, yes, born and raised here. And we sang such a wonderful variety of music in high school, Brahms and Walton and Doriflé and Fauré, that really sort of formulated my choir, writing for choir, because I do a lot of writing for choir, and just having the choir kind of in my ear. So all of the classical composers, but as well as a lot of the jazz composers, have had a big influence on my writing.
Well, speaking of writing and writing jazz, can you say something about the challenges in writing jazz, some hip-hop idioms, and how that takes form in notation, which I would guess is somewhat different than the traditional classical style?
Yeah. Well, it was a really interesting challenge for me, but in a way I felt very comfortable notating. I sort of wrote for the choir in what I felt the choir would make the choir sound best in the situation, and then a lot of the jazz is going to come from my ensemble. So the choir is just going to sing its music, and then we add a lot of the inflection in the ensemble. So it's kind of interesting. The choir doesn't have to read anything but what's on the page, but I require my musicians to actually live off the page. The page becomes a blueprint for them. And I think that this happens a lot in jazz, where we might notate something, but we really expect the performer to be able to take what is there on the page and do some interpreting as well.
Well, I do want to ask you about the jazz ensemble that we're working with for these two concerts, but before that, piggybacking on your last answer, are there particular challenges you find as a composer writing in what is something of an Afrocentric style, certainly with this material, and then presenting it to a largely white, suburban-based, non-urban familiar Eurocentric choir? Do you find particular challenges either in preparing this as you're writing a commissioned work, or in what you find when you work with the group?
It's a great question, and originally, I did have some preconceptions, and I was trying to, well, how am I going to make this a jazz piece? But then I abandoned all of that, because my own experience as an African American really is not limited to one language. And even when you look at jazz, you see there are many different languages within that. And when you look at classical, there are many different languages. So what I really sought to do with this piece is to find the commonalities that exist between multiple musical languages, so that this could be presented in a way that anyone could understand the message and could feel what was going on in the music without necessarily having to have a particular background in jazz or a particular background in classical. It kind of lives on its own as a mix of many different styles.
Well, it's been a wonderful journey for the choir to work on this piece.